Good morning, students. Welcome to our online class. Students, today we are going to start a new theme, that is theme 4 from book 1 of Ancient Indian History. And the theme name is Thinkers, Beliefs and Buildings. Thinkers, beliefs and buildings. Under this we will read about the cultural developments from 600 BCE to 600 Common Era. So students, we are going to start theme 4, that is thinkers, beliefs and buildings, from 600 BCE to 600 Common Era. Under this, today we are covering the following topics. Here are the topics: a glimpse of Sanchi, the background, sacrifices and debates, the sacrificial tradition, debates and discussions, the message of Mahavira, the spread of Jainism. So these are our topics, students. So before going to those topics, I'll give the introduction of the theme. Students, today in this theme, we are going a long journey across thousands of years. In this theme, we are going in a long journey across thousands of years to read about the philosophers and their attempts. We will read about the philosophers and their attempts to understand the world they inhabited. That means we are going in a long journey of 1000 years, and we will read about the philosophers and their attempts to understand the world they inhabited. We will also see we will also see how their ideas were compiled, how the ideas of the philosophers have been compiled as oral and written texts, as well as expressed in architecture and sculpture. These are indicative of the enduring influence these thinkers had on people. That means how the philosophers and thinkers had their influence on the people. While we will be focusing on Buddhism, particularly in this chapter we will focus on Buddhism and Jainism. While we are focusing on Buddhism, it is important to remember that this Buddhism was not developed in an isolation. Buddhism was not developed in an isolation. There were several other traditions also. Each engaged in debates and dialogues with the others. The sources that historians used to reconstruct world of ideas, I can say like this: the sources that historians used to reconstruct the exciting world of ideas and beliefs include Buddhist, Jaina and Brahmanical texts, as well as a large and impressive body of materials remains, including the monuments and inscriptions. Among the best preserved monuments of the time is the Sanchi Stupa, which is a major focus in this chapter. That means we will read about Buddhism along with other religious traditions. We will read about the monuments, the Brahmanical text, the Buddhist and Jaina texts. All these things we will read in this chapter. So students, in this book he has given here a glimpse of Sanchi. A glimpse of Sanchi. Actually, Sanchi is a place in near Ujjain, Bhopal. Okay, So Sanchi in 19th century. The topic is a glimpse of Sanchi. Sanchi in 19th century. I am reading the textbook, students, listen carefully. The most wonderful ancient buildings is the state of Bhopal are at Sanchi Kanakhera. Kanakhera, a small village under the brow of a hill some 20 miles northeast of Bhopal. 20 miles of northeast of Bhopal, which we visited yesterday. I mean the historians or archaeologists. We inspected the stone sculptures and statues of the Buddha and an ancient gateway which is in front of the Sanchi Stupa. The ruins means what? The broken buildings. The ruins appear to be the object of great interest to Europeans. The ruins of Sanchi Stupa appears to be great interest to the European gentlemen. Who was the gentleman here? Major Alexander Cunningham. He was none other than Major Alexander Cunningham. He stayed several weeks in this neighborhood of the Sanchi Stupa and examined these ruins most carefully. He took drawings of the place. He took the drawings of that Sanchi Stupa, that place, find out the inscriptions and bored shafts down the domes. He dug the shaft under the dome. The results of his investigations were described by him in a English work. So students, here we will read about the glimpse of Sanchi. Where is Sanchi? What was located there? What was Sanchi Stupa? The description, everything. So students, in 19th century, Europeans were very interested in the stupa at Sanchi. Who were very interested? The Europeans were very interested in the stupa at Sanchi, which is located near Bhopal. Okay. The French sought Shahjahan Begum permission. The French people, they took the permission from the Shahjahan Begum, the ruler of that place, okay, to take away the eastern gateway. They asked the permission to Shahjahan Begum to take the eastern gateway of the Sanchi Stupa, which was the best preserved at that time. It was not completely ruined. To display this gateway in the museum in France. So the French people, they approached to Shahjahan Begum to take the eastern gateway along with them to be placed in the museum in France. Now next, Englishmen also wanted to do the same. Even English people also, during their rule, okay, they also wanted to do the same. But fortunately, luckily, both the French and the English were satisfied with the carefully prepared plaster cast copies. Shahjahan Begum was not given the permission to take this gateway. So what these people did, English and French people, they took the cast was what? Sancha. They took the mold of plaster of Paris and they took the impression of that gateway. So they took the plaster cast copies and the original remained at the site. That means Shahjahan Begum has not given the permission. So with the help of that the plaster of Paris, they took the impression of that gateway and they took the impressions to their country. But the original gateway was located at Sanchi only. Okay, site, part of the Bhopal state. The rulers of Bhopal, Shahjahan Begum and her successor, Sultan Jahan Begum, provided money. They provided lots of money for the preservation of the ancient site. That means the rulers of Bhopal, both Shahjahan Begum and the successors Sultan Jahan Begum, both they spent a lot of money in the preservation of this ancient monument called Sanchi Stupa. Okay students, now moving to our next topic, that is the background and sacrifices. This one, the background, sacrifices and debates. Okay, the mid first millennium BCE. The mid first millennium BCE is often regarded as the turning point in the world history. I repeat, the mid first millennium BCE. The mid first millennium BCE is often regarded as the turning point in the world history. Why? Because it saw the emergence of thinkers. Because during this period, we saw the emergence of several thinkers such as Zoroaster. Zoroaster, he was a famous thinker, was born in Iran, Zoroaster. Like that, Kongzi, he was born in China. Socrates in Greece, Plato in Greece, Aristotle in Greece, and Mahavira and Gautam Buddha among many others in India. So these are the thinkers. They were born during the mid first millennium BCE in the world, and they enlightened the entire world. Some were born in Iran, some were born in China, some were born in India. Okay, some were born in Greece also. So in this regard, we come to know that both Mahavira and Gautam Buddha, they were born in India, and they are the enlightened thinkers of our Indian subcontinent at that time. Now, the sacrificial tradition. The sacrificial tradition. So what we are going to read in this one? Students, there were several pre-existing traditions of thought. There were several pre-existing traditions of thought, religious beliefs and practice at the time, including the early Vedic tradition known from the Rig Veda. You have studied Rig Veda. It is the ancient Veda. It is the ancient Veda composed with the Aryans. This Rig Veda was compiled between 500 and between 1000 BC. 500 to 1000 BC, between this period, this Rig Veda was composed. So if you read the Rig Veda, this entire information you will get. Okay, same thing I am reading the textbook. There were several pre-existing traditions of thought, religious beliefs and practice, including the early Vedic tradition known from the Rig Veda, compiled between 500 to 1000 BC. Rig Veda consists of what? Actually, what is there in the Rig Veda? Hymns, H-Y-M-N-S, hymns. Prayers. Hymns in praise of variety of deities. There are so many prayers are there in the praise of the deities at the time. D-E-I-T-I-S, deities. Especially Agni, Indra and Soma. Indra, Agni and Soma, these are the deities at the time. In the praise of these deities, they wrote prayers. Many of these hymns were chanted, repeated in a louder voice, chanted when sacrifices were performed. Where people prayed for cattle, people at the time they prayed for cattle, sons, good health and long life, etc. At first sacrifices, human sacrifice or animal sacrifice, at first sacrifices were performed collectively. Initially the sacrifices are performed collectively. Okay, later between 1000 BC to 500 BC onwards, some were performed by the heads of the household. Later the sacrificial performance were carried out by the head of the household, head of the family, for the well-being of the house or for the well-being of the household. More elaborate sacrifices such as the Rajasyu Yajna and Aswamedha Yajna, these are also sacrifices ceremonies, were performed by the chiefs and kings. Rajasyu Yajna and Aswamedha Yajna, both are performed by the chiefs and the kings at the time, who depended on Brahmana priests to conduct the rituals. As we studied that Brahmins are their work is what? To conduct religious ceremonies and rituals. So now, the new questions. Debates and discussions. Students, under debates and discussions, what we are going to read, listen carefully. Buddhist texts mention as many as 64 sects or schools of thought. So in the Buddhist texts, how many sects are there? 64, which are mentioned. 64 schools of thoughts are there under Buddhism text. Teachers, not today teachers, those who teach at the time. Teachers travel from place to place. Teachers travel from place to place, trying to convince one another as well as lay persons about the validity of their philosophy or the way they understood the world. I mean, it is the duty of the teachers at the time. They go on place to place to convince the people, even the laymen, to understand about the validity of the philosophy given by the thinkers of the time. Debates took place in the Kuta Garshala. Kuta Garshala is a place, name of place where the debates are taken place. So debates took place in the Kuta Garshala. Literary means a hut. Okay, Kuta Garshala matlab a hut a hut with a pointed roof. A hut with pointed roof, or in grooves, I mean forest grooves, where traveling mendicants halted, where the travelers halted there. So debates and discussions are taking place in the Kuta Garshala, I mean a hut which is having the sharp, roof, or also I can say the grooves where travelers you should take rest during, for some time. Now coming to our next topic, that is the message of Mahavira. The message of Mahavira. So I can say, beyond worldly pleasures, Mahavira gave the message. What was his message? Listen, students, carefully. The basic philosophy of the Jainas, was already existing, or I can say already existence in North India before the birth of Vardhamana Mahavira, who came to be known as what? Mahavira. Actually his name is what? Vardhaman. Later he was known as what? Mahavira. I repeat, the basic philosophy of the Jainas were already existed or already found in North India before the birth of Vardhamana, who came to be known as Mahavira. The most important ideas in Jainism is that the entire world is animated. According to the Mahavir Jaina, he said that the entire world is what? Animated. Even stones, rocks, water have life. Everything have life, they believe. Non-injury, non-violence. Non-injury to the living being, not to hurt any living being, especially to humans, animals, plants and insects also. So Jain people, they will not, hurt all these people. Is the central idea to Jaina philosophy. So what is the main philosophy of Jaina? Not to hurt anyone. Not to do any injury to either plants, animals, insects, anything. That the central philosophy of Jaina or Jainism. Now the spread of Jainism. So how this Jainism spread throughout India and abroad? Jainism spread to many parts of India. It was spread many parts of India, like the Buddhists. Jaina scholars produced a wealth of literature. Jaina scholars produced a wealth of literature in a variety of languages such as Prakrit, Sanskrit and Tamil. So these literature, these Jaina scholars, they took with them and they traveled to distant places and spread the idea of Jainism. So I can read like this. The basic philosophy of the Jainas was already existed in North India before the birth of Vardhamana, who came to be known as Mahavira in the 6th century BC. According to Jaina tradition, Mahavira was preceded by 23 other teachers, whom we are calling as Tirthankaras. Before Mahavira, there are other 23 teachers are there, philosophical teachers are there whom we are calling Tirthankaras. Okay, literary, those who guide, Tirthankaras means what? Those people who guide men and women across the river of existence. The most important idea in Jainism is that the entire world is animated, even stones, rocks, plants, insects, they are having life, and non-injury is the central idea of their philosophy. Non-injury to living beings, especially to humans, animals, plants, and insects, is the central idea of Jaina philosophy. In fact, the principle of ahimsa emphasized, within Jainism. Ahimsa was there in Jainism, has left its mark on Indian thinking as a whole. According to Jaina teachings, the cycle of birth and death, or I guess the cycle of birth and rebirth, is shaped through karma. So Jainism philosophy believed that the birth and rebirth is a cycle based on the karma of the people. The works of the people, good and bad deeds. Asceticism, sannyasi. Asceticism and penance, doing what? Meditation or finding truth by doing meditation. So asceticism and penance are required to free oneself from the cycle of karma. If you leave the worldly pleasures, if you do meditation, then only you will be free from all the problems of karma. This can be achieved only by what? Renouncing the worldly pleasures. Giving up all the worldly pleasures. Therefore, monastic existence is a necessary condition of salvation. Salvation is what? Moksha. Jaina monks and nuns. In Jaina, the males are called what? The followers of Jainism, males are called monks and the ladies are called what? Nuns. Took 5 oaths, 5 oaths, like pledge, to abstain from killing. First one. Stealing. Second one. Lying, not to tell lies. To observe celibacy. And to abstain from possessing property. These are the 5 vows that are taken by the monks and nuns who are the followers of Jainism. Again, I told you the spread of Jainism. Once again I repeat, gradually Jainism spread in many parts of India, like Buddhist. Jaina scholars produce a wealth of literature in a variety of languages such as Prakrit, Sanskrit and Tamil. For centuries, manuscripts of these texts were carefully preserved in libraries attached to temples. Some of the earliest stone sculptures associated with religious traditions were produced by devotees of the Jaina Tirthankaras and have been recovered from several sites throughout the subcontinent. So these are the topics which we covered in this video, students. So in the next video we will come up with some other topics. Till then, take care.